Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Coder. I'm sorry I've been gone for so long. I had a couple of things to do. I had to take YouTube and kind of put it to the side for a little bit. I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to take this channel into going forward. I wasn't sure if I was going to start a couple of new channels here and there. I wasn't sure if I could sustain uploading one video per week on this channel. It's a pretty daunting task because of all the research that goes into creating all these videos and doing the editing and then posting it on YouTube and then posting it on Twitter and then posting it on Reddit and posting it on Patreon and doing updates and responding to comments. I mean, for one video, it's basically almost like a full-time job every week to just curate one video. I don't know how everybody else does it, honestly. So if you want to help out, feel free to jump over to my Patreon page and pledge there. And for those of you who are current patrons, thank you so much for being part of that. So with all that said, welcome back to me. I hope you guys are still around. It looks like a lot of you are. We've recently crossed the 3,000 subscriber threshold, even though I haven't been posting videos in a while, which is kind of great. I'm actually really happy about how many subscribers we have. I had no idea that we were even going to get that far. I did not ever think that I was going to get that many subscribers. But nonetheless, here we are with this many subscribers. All of you are still around and I guess waiting for the next tutorial to happen, which is actually now. We're working on Frogger, and I'm sorry I left a lot of you hanging at part 10, going to the home base, which is, actually a big part of the game. So a lot of you probably could have finished it after that. If not, the next part that we're going to go into is scoring, which is what we're going to do today. And then the part after that, I think maybe we're going to get more into like resetting the game, or actually after the scoring we should be able to move into getting to the next level. So with all the talking aside, here's where the video starts. So here we are. This is where we left off, part 10. So let's just kind of review and make sure everything is just working. We got a frog. We've got our timer at the bottom. We've got our lives at the left. So we've got traffic here. We're going to move around. And... shit. I just died. Okay, so it did take a life away, so that's good. And let's make sure we can get to a home bay. Wow, these logs are moving super fast. Alright, that's a good thing. So, can we get to a home bay if it's already occupied? I don't know if I actually went that far. So yeah, that... Did it? No, it didn't take a life. But does it count towards being in the home bay? Alright, so it's not taking a life. I don't know how it works in the original Frogger. I guess we could try out the game and see, but right now I don't want to concentrate on that. Right now we're just going to get into the score. So I think the first thing we should do is we should probably open up the HUD script. You guys remember the HUD script from so many months ago? Give me a second here. Alright, so let's go in the scripts folder and open up HUD. And that opened off the screen. So let me just come over here and grab that. So this is what our HUD script looks like now. So in order for us to have scoring, the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to be able to create a reference or a property for a text object in the GUI. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a public text type, and we're going to call that score text. Okay. And then in order for us to update our score text, we are going to want to create a new method in this class, right? We're going to create it, and we're going to call it update player score. And we're going to pass in a single parameter, and that's going to be our score that we want to update our player score with. Okay? So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to get what our current score is. And we do that by creating an integer. We're going to call it current score, and we're going to cast an int, right? We're going to parse the string of the score text.text property. All right, so let me just explain what's going on here really quick. Score text, which we created up here, is a property that we're going to assign a text GUI element to, and that property has a property called text, or sorry, that object. Yeah, that object has a property called text, and that is going to hold the actual score. Now, the score is stored as a text, as a string. So what we have to do is we have to use this method for int to parse the text, which will then turn it into an integer for us. And once we have it as an integer, we can actually just increment the score, right, by the score that we're passing in as the parameter for the update player score method. So we're calling update player score, or passing in score. We're getting the current score by parsing the text property of the score text object. We're then taking score and incrementing current score, right? So then what we need to do is we need to just go back to score text, and we need to set the text property of that object to the current score. Well, remember, because we have to store it as a string, we have to convert that back to a string from the integer that it is now. So at that point, there's really nothing else to do in the HUD in the HUD game object. We don't need to actually do anything else in here. So we'll save that, and we can close that now. So now if we go to our canvas HUD, which is where the HUD script lives, you can see that we've got a new property here called score text. So all we have to do is in our HUD, let's go ahead and double click on that so we can zoom in on the HUD. And for those of you who want to try to position this properly, the best thing you can do is take game and you can drag it down and basically just put it to the side so that you have a view of the game view and the actual canvas HUD. So at that point, all you'd want to do is go to game object, UI, and go to text. And now we've got this text object, and if you'll look over on the right here, it's barely noticeable. You see new text. Let's make that font a little bigger. And because we've now exceeded the size of our text box, we're going to have to make our text box bigger, which is alright. Okay, so we'll just make that, let's go for a nice number like 350 in the width and 50 in the height. And the other thing that we want to do is we want to center that to make it easy to position. Because right now, here it is in the center. We could put it here, which wouldn't make much sense. I am actually going to put this down here in the green area. I'm going to zoom in on this a little better. Okay, that's about the center. And I'm going to change this text color to white because the gray against the green background is just a little hard to read. So we're going to go with white, which looks a little better. Alright, so one more thing, maybe we'll make it bold. Yep, bold looks good. And we'll change this to 0 because that is our current score. Now, a fun thing to do at this point would probably be to change the font of the score to something more that represents the kind of 8-bit style we've got going on here. But I don't have anything loaded, and I didn't think to try and find one for this particular purpose. So Right now, we're just going to leave it as it is. So the only thing left to do now is to actually update the player score. And the best place to do that is in the actual player class. So if we'll open up the player script, we need to make sure, which I already think that we have. Yep, we have a reference to HUD, which is our canvas HUD. Okay, so basically, because we have a reference to that game object, we can call any kind of public method that we've created in there. And the public method that we created to update our score is update player score. So the first things we want to do is where we update the player's position, right? We've got up, down, left, and right. Every time the player moves, we want to add 10 points. So we're going to say HUD.update player score. And we're going to say 10. Okay, so that's going to add 10 points to our score. And same thing here. HUD.update player score, 10. And for the left, HUD.update player score, 10. And finally, we've got right, which is HUD.update player score, 10. So, one thing we actually forgot to do, let's go back into Unity. We forgot to assign this to the HUD script. So it's in the HUD, right? We created this, we created the game object in the HUD, but we actually have to assign this to score text. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drag text to score text, and just because consistency, let's call this score. So now if we go to canvas HUD, we'll see that we have our score assigned to the score text property, which means that when the player moves, should update the score by 10 every time. Oops, I want to put that back in here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and play the game and see what happens. Alright, so now we're at 0, and we got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and everything is working as it should. There. Perfect. Alright, so now what do we want to do? We want to add another way for the player to score, and that is in this other area here. Let's see, where did we put that? So, in this method here, in our check collisions method, we are checking to see which game object the player collided with. Okay? And at this point, if the collidable object is a home bay, right, and if the collidable object is not occupied, so that's what this reads, then we create a trophy, and then we set the occupied space to true, and then we reset the timer. So in between here, what we can do is we can say HUD.update player score, and we're going to pass in 50. Okay? And actually, I'm going to put this over here. Alright. And then, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable to hold the time remaining. Okay, so that's going to be time remaining equals, and we're going to cast it int game time minus game timer. And we're casting an int because that game timer is a float, and we want an integer value. We are going to update our player score by time remaining times 10. So not only do we get 50 points for getting to the home bay, But we also get a bonus score. This is really what you want to call it, is a bonus score for the how much time is remaining, and we pass in a times 10 multiplier to get that nice score for what we want. Okay, so at this point we could try that out. Let's save, and we'll go to our Frogger game, press play, and we're off to start hopping around. These cars are fast. Alright. So, the way we test this is we're at 160 right now, so we should be at 210 plus whatever the bonus time is. So, yeah, 210 plus 130 would have been the bonus time. That means we would have had 13 seconds left on the clock. Let's try to get as close to not having any time left as possible to see what our score would be. And this is what game development is all about, is just testing, 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 testing. Up, we're down, bam, 450, and we went up to 540, so we got 90. So that means we got 50 plus 40, so we had 4 seconds to go. That sounds about right. Alright, so I'm actually happy with this. So the next thing to do, probably not in this episode because I don't want to make these too long anymore, is to detect when all 5 home bays are filled. Because that would then signal a new level, right? And that's what we want. That's our ultimate goal, is to get to the next level. Because once we get to the next level, then our gameplay possibilities are endless. We can change things around. We can change the speeds of cars. We can change the speeds of logs. The time to turtles dive. Bonus point structures. We can add all kinds of different things to like make the next couple of levels more exciting, or give it more replay value, right? So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. Oh yeah, maybe the one after this we could do some music, some sound effects maybe, because right now it's just kind of boring just listening to nothing. Anyways, end of the tutorial. I will hopefully see you guys next week. I'm not going to make any promises right now, but I'm going to try to get back into this on a weekly basis. If not, then on a semi-weekly basis, and if not, then on a monthly basis, and if not, then, you know, I don't know, every 6 months kind of sounds good to me. No, I will try to keep you guys updated as much as possible, and I'm going to make sure that the Patreon page continues to be updated as well. Again, I want to say thank you to the patrons. You guys are awesome. You don't have to donate any money to me at all, but you do it anyways, which is truly amazing. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.